Mm. Guys, anyone who's joined me already, just give me a second. I am trying to also go live. Yes, simultaneously on other platforms. And we will wait for a few people to join us. All right, we'll wait for a few people to join us. And if people are here with me already, and if you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. Okay, guys, I'm just going to change my setting a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so welcome everyone to today's live session. Today I will be taking more questions than ever before because I want this to be a really interactive session. We've done a lot of successive series on express entry. We've discussed what it is. We've discussed score parameters. We've discussed so many things about the express entry already. I also did a really detailed session on student visas, etc. So this session is going to be extremely interactive. I have the capacity really and the time to take as many individual questions, etc. And I also want this to be an interesting discussion about express entry, what really happened in 2020 in terms of draws, in terms of just the trend and what the government seemed to be thinking in terms of the draws they did, etc. And also with every discussion about what really happened in the year 2020, we will also have a discussion about expectations for 2021 and what is likely to occur, this particular year. So that is going to be our topic of discussion. I hope it's going to be really interesting and interactive because this is not just about me, spewing nuggets of wisdom or whatever. I want everyone to participate and ask as many questions. Just asking my I'm just asking my colleagues if I am audible and if I'm good to go. Okay, she's asking me to kind of raise it a little bit. Okay, guys, just a second. Sorry. This whole, yeah. Okay, so hello everyone. I don't know which part of the world you're joining me from, but my name is Srijana. I am the AJV Canada specialist, and I'm based out of Toronto, in Ontario, in Canada. This is earlier morning for me. It's 8:30 a.m. for me, so good morning. I guess a majority of you in India, it's good evening. Thank you for taking time out, your precious time to join me. Please start putting in your questions in the comment section, and we can have an interactive session. If you want to engage with us, and if you've been an AGV client already, or you want to know about your Canada chances and analysis of your profile, etc., please leave your contact details, email ID, and phone number. That would be very, very appreciated. Okay, so let's start our discussion today. We are going to look at express entry. What really happened in the year 2020, and what can we expect in the year 2021? This is our topic for discussion for anyone just joining us. Um, Yes, I have questions already on which country. Guys, this is a Canada specific thread. I know AJV, we've established ourselves in the New Zealand space and in the New Zealand immigration space quite dominantly. And I always get questions on New Zealand and what's happening whenever I'm doing sessions. But let's be cognizant of the fact that this is a Canada specific question. If you have questions on New Zealand, you can by all means put it forward as well, but I will be taking questions on Canada today, and because I have a whole host of licensed colleagues doing work in the New Zealand space anyway, so they will in the various live streams that they do, I'm hoping will answer questions on New Zealand. Okay, so express entry is if anybody today is joining me with no idea of what express entry is. Express entry is Canada's flagship program for managing three skilled worker federal programs: the FSW, Federal Skilled Worker; FST, Federal Skilled Trade; and CEC, the Canadian Experience Class, as well as some provincial nomination programs. Okay, now the year 2020 was an interesting one for express entry. A total of 107,320, so 107,320 invitations to apply were given out in the year 2020. It is a significant number. I mean, it's more than 100,000 people who received invitations to apply, and then they applied for PR, etc. As many people were not able to travel because because of COVID, there was a travel ban, and a lot of people couldn't travel, even with the COPR. So the number of permanent residents entering into Canada, perhaps that number has been affected a little bit, but of course the invitations to apply were rolled out aplenty. 107 350. Sorry, that's the number of invitations to apply that were rolled out. And if we look at 2020, a total of 38 draws were conducted. So for the benefit of the audience, I know if you guys have been following me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The government of Canada does bi-weekly draws. So pretty much, every 2 weeks, there is a draw and people are picked up from the express entry pool. So in 2020, from the very start of the year to the end of the year, there were 38 draws that happened. And the 1,700, 350 invitations to apply were a result of the 38 draws. Okay, now an interesting thing that happened in 2020 was that there was a significant increase in the CEC draws, which is the Canadian Experience Class draws. Now, again, if you've been following me, you know that the Canadian Experience Class is for anybody who has acquired, studied, and therefore acquired work experience in Canada. So 10 of those draws, of the 38 draws, 10 of those draws were CEC draws, so Canadian Experience Class draws, which is significant. I mean, it's 26% of the draws, because conventionally and historically speaking, the Canadian Experience Class draws have been smaller in number. It's perhaps the government's way of saying we are going to make it easier for anybody who has studied here and who has acquired 1 year of work experience in Canada. So it was definitely an easier pathway for those people. In the very beginning of 2021, towards the end of February, there was a bit of a stir here, and that was because there was an unprecedented draw with regard to CEC. A lot of you must have heard that the federal government did a Canadian Experience class draw, and the lowest CRS score was just 75. So if you had acquired work experience in Canada, if you had, and for a lot of people who had studied here, they went from a study permit to a postgraduate work permit, then to acquiring work experience. They most definitely got their invitations to apply. It was easy, easy, easy with a CRS score of just 75. I mean, if you're wondering, for a moment, if you were confused and you thought, oh my God, I'm sitting with 450 and how come people with 75 are getting invited? That's because it was a Canadian Experience class draw and not an all program draw, which you'll be waiting for if you're in the pool without experience. Okay, so in that particular round of invitations in Feb 2021, where it was a CEC draw with a minimum CRS cutoff of 75, around 27,300 people received invitations. This is epic. It created quite a stir in the immigration space. Nobody was expecting it. But it happened. A lot of people who hadn't put in their profiles because they thought, oh, I'm only around 440, 450. A lot of people here who were on postgraduate work permits, and they were like, I'm not too sure, I'm going to put in my application later, really, really did miss out. So one of the lessons was that no matter what, you can only take advantage of the government's changing scores and changing thresholds if you already have your profile in the express entry pool. So that's the important bit. Have your profile in the express entry pool, and then at least you have a shot then with no matter what happens, right? So that is definitely one important Feb 2021 development. Very start of the year, it created quite a stir. It also means that 27,000 people from the pool have been taken out because they received invitations. So it makes the way that much clearer for other people who are already in the pool. So that's the benefit, or I guess that's the advantage for other people. Um, Yeah, so those were okay. I'll take a few questions now to sort of punctuate my what happened in 2020. There's a question here on, do we need a degree evaluation done before submitting express entry? By Raghav, the answer to that is yes. Before you enter the express entry pool, you need your academic credential assessments completed. And a lot of people in India choose WES for this particular services, World Education Services. So you need to get a Canadian equivalent for whatever post-secondary education you've completed in India. So if you've done a bachelor's, if you've done a master's, please also make sure that if there's there's a sprinkling of other diplomas, if there's a postgraduate diploma, or if there's a certificate, all of that is assessed because at the end of the day, you might be able to claim points for some of these qualifications. So whatever post-secondary qualification, if you have a spouse, make sure you're doing the academic credential assessment for the spouse as well, because you can add your spouse to the profile. And for the education level of your spouse, if the spouse has Canadian experience, great. But for the majority of people, that'll be a no. Basically, for your spouse's education qualifications and also for her English language abilities, you will get points if the spouse is added to the profile. So when you're doing your ECA or your educational credential assessment, make sure it's done for your spouse as well, and that IELTS is done for both people. Your scores, what you should absolutely target is 8777, 8 in listening, 777 in reading, writing, and speaking. But of course, I mean, if you can go higher, by all means. I've discussed in sessions before this as well that IELTS has a significant bearing on your overall profile score. All four modules of IELTS. So make sure that you treat IELTS with the gravity that it absolutely deserves, and that you have a fair amount of practice and a fair amount of preparation going on before you actually give your IELTS exam. Okay. Okay, I have a question here. Vikas asks, is New Zealand residents as good as Canada? Is New Zealand as serious as Canada about inviting people? Um, I mean, a comparative analysis of both countries. I'm asked this a lot of times, and because I don't know if many of you are aware, but I have worked for the government of New Zealand for many, many years in India, and I worked for the New Zealand High Commission before I actually moved to Canada. So, in that way, sort of, I have, I guess, a unique perspective on both countries. And I've traveled to both countries. I live in Canada now, and I can tell you that, I mean, both countries are wonderful options. New Zealand definitely scores higher in terms of weather, etc. But there are many, many other factors that are working for Canada, and Canada continues to, build its reputation around the world as a very immigrant-friendly nation, which is true to a large, large extent. New Zealand has been very, very protectionist with their border closures, related to COVID-19. The High Commission has stopped accepting applications. The processing of a lot of those applications have moved to New Zealand itself. Canada, on the other hand, has continued to accept applications. Processing is happening. The Canadian High Commission in India, via its official Twitter handle, tweeted, I guess, towards the end of Feb, that there is a delay in processing of applications. And they've asked all applicants to be patient, but at least they are receiving processing applications. And with express entry and PR processing, there hasn't been a significant delay. PR processing timeframes were around 6 months. It continues to be so. For students, I guess the High Commission sort of tweeted that there is a significant delay, and that people are expected to be patient, and that if they are deferring their intake to the next one, that they fill in a form, etc. So, I guess with Canada, they are accepting applications. Decisions are still coming in. People with approved visas can apply. That process has come to a bit of a standstill with New Zealand, because they have, a lot of things have come to a complete standstill. But it's not that, they're going to stop programs. New Zealand very much has a point-based SMC, a skilled migrant program as well, a skilled migrant class, which is just a vibrant way of, taking in migrants as well. It's very much comparable to Canada's express entry system. So that's my take on both countries. Both countries has distinct advantages, disadvantages. They have USPs, which, it won't be fair to, take two countries and compare them like equal products, because these are countries with different characteristics, sort of demographic factors, job opportunities. It really also depends on, what your area of specialization is. Do you have a specific problem with harsh winters, etc. So all those are factors to consider before you really zero down on it. And I feel like it's not on me to sort of sit on a pedestal and be like, hey, this one's better than the other, because both countries have a lot of things going for them, and they're both wonderful countries for anyone wanting to settle down and build a life. Okay. Krishna, border opening for UK. I'm not too sure about what's going on in the UK. Like everyone else, they might be gearing up to ease border restrictions a little bit in 2021. I know for sure that vaccination is on full-fledged, but the specifics I might not be able to give you on UK. But all countries, I think the vaccination program is going on. Canada has said that the Prime Minister has said that they are going to make sure that everybody is vaccinated at least by the end of September, and that should, of course, make coming into Canada a lot easier, especially if you're in a country where you've already taken the vaccine and you can provide a COVID negative result. Then your coming into Canada should be a lot easier, and travel restrictions by and large should be eased out significantly. Okay. Okay, guys, if you have questions, please continue to engage with me, and please ask your questions on whichever live stream platform you're on. This is a express entry specific conversation, but I'm happy to look at questions even if you have them in other areas related to sort of Canada and your entry into Canada. Okay, so okay, so I'll come back to questions, guys. We were looking at, what happened to express entry in 2020. Has the government really met its target, right? So the target for 2020 for bringing in permanent residents every year is around 400,000. The numbers are going to go up, as the years go by. So for 2021. The number of permanent residents that the government wants to bring in is about 401,000. For 2022, that number is set at 411,000. And for 2023, that number goes up even higher to 421,000 permanent residents. So for 2020, the government hasn't quite met its target for bringing in as many permanent residents as it wanted, which leaves that much more wiggle room for 2021. Everyone asks, are the scores likely to go down? Well, logic would sort of dictate that if they want to bring in more people, the scores are likely to go down. But, in the world of draws and in the world of CRS cutoffs, it's been very, very, unpredictable. And from the start of, and we're in March already, there hasn't been a single all program draw. In 2021, there have only been CEC draws, and so everybody's waiting, with bated breath. But the next one hopefully will be an all program draw. And anyone who thinks, they have a credible score should definitely enter the express entry pool. I would recommend getting your academic credentials assessed, getting IELTS done. Please note that Canada does not accept PTE, which might be the case for New Zealand. A lot of you guys here are looking at New Zealand and Canada simultaneously. So make sure that it's not PTE that you're approaching Canada with. We need general IELTS if you are applying for residence. And we need academic IELTS if you are wanting to pursue any of the academic programs or the study to reside pathway in Canada. Okay, so make sure that it is the correct IELTS test that you are giving before you are ready to apply for residence. What else happened in 2020? There was only one federal skills trade draw. So, the FST hasn't really proved to be a very, what can I say, a secure and a very trusted way of entering into Canada. There were quite a few PNP draws. The lowest CRS cutoff in the year 2020 was 415. That was for a federal skills trade draw. For CEC, it was around 431. The scores continue to remain quite high for the all for the all program FSW, and it kept hovering largely around towards the end of the year around 468, 469, 470. Went on even further. So that's what happened towards the end of the year. I think the last draw was at about 468. Yeah, 468, sorry, was the lowest. Draw number 170 in the year 2020 was actually the lowest all program CRS score of 468. And 468 is still a formidable CRS score. And I mean, a couple of years earlier, even 450 would have been considered a great score. 440, 445, 450. But since then, the draw CRS cutoffs have gone up significantly, and it's now largely hovering around the 470, 472 mark, which I mean, I completely agree. The scores are really high, but that's what it's come to, and that perhaps is because the job situation here has been compounded like everywhere else with COVID a lot. So when permanent residents and citizens themselves are scurrying around and scavenging for jobs, it becomes quite a sensitive thing to bring on more people, and that's perhaps why the Canadian experience class draw has been prioritized, because these are people who already have work experience or they've studied in Canada, which means their intake in the whole job space is going to be a lot easier, that transition. And therefore, in a way, it makes sense for the government to facilitate long-term stay for people who are already here and working. And that's why possibly the CEC draws have become more common than ever. And a lot of clients are considering, moving to the study to decide pathway, which might, just be the most secure way of getting to Canada at the moment. Okay, so the lowest was 468, like we said. That was the lowest CRS cutoff, all program cutoff. And in terms of, I guess, the highest score, we went, pretty high in the year 2020. And we looked at, definitely about, yeah, we even went to 474, which is quite high. Yeah, guys, I'm looking at, the highest was draw number 166 in the year 2020, draw number 166. And the highest CRS cutoff score was 478. So the lowest in 2020 was draw number 170 with a CRS cutoff of 468. The highest was draw number 166 and 155, and the CRS cutoff then was 478. So the numbers are, I guess, proof that it was a tough year for express entry. If you were in the pool and waiting, with 450 and 460, which I mean conventionally have been considered very, very good scores. Okay, so that was the data for 2020. I still have important data points to discuss, but yes, you can definitely interject with your questions. Okay. So a lot of people are writing in saying, 29 years old, me and my wife wanting to move via express entry. So, let me, give you a generic answer for anybody who is under 30. The express entry process is going to be a little bit smoother because you will get points, significant points for age. And age has, there's a whole, the subsector points that are allotted for age is significant. If you are under 30, you get far more points than if you are, above 35. After 40 years, I mean, you stop getting points at all, so it becomes exponentially harder. But if you are under 30, you can definitely try express entry, and the profile does get significantly. Guys, just a sec. I just need to plug in my charger. Yeah, so if you are under 30, and especially if you have a bachelor's degree and some other qualification in addition to the bachelor. So if you have a postgraduate diploma, if you have a master's degree, that's wonderful. If you and your spouse, if one person has uh, an added diploma or degree in addition to the bachelor's, that's a great start. That's point number one. The other thing, I think it's AK Mishra who's asked this question. The other thing is to have IELTS done. So we need general IELTS, as we've discussed already. A minimum of 8777 in IELTS, 8 in listening, 777 in other modules will be awesome. And if you have at least 3 years of professional work experience in your home country. I mean, I'm assuming you don't have Canadian work experience, so you get maximum points for 3 years and above of work experience. So if you have that, you or your spouse, that'll be fantastic. So that, in my eyes, would be considered, a very credible profile. Under 30, one person has a postgraduate qualification or a master's degree and above 3 years or more of professional qualification. This would be in many ways a winning combination in tandem with a great IELTS score. That would definitely build up to great CRS points. But otherwise there are, I guess, other ways as well. I mean, if you are willing to put in the resource and the time and the investment of coming here and studying and then moving on to postgraduate work permit and then acquiring work experience and applying for residence, it seems to be a much more vetted and assured way of getting long-term residence here. And it might actually be worth the time and the money and the effort, because if you come, when you come here as a permanent resident, like I did, knowing very, very few people, knowing nothing about the employment landscape here, landing a credible job is difficult. Whereas if you've studied here, you've built your networks, you are far better acquainted with the country. You are kind of used to the weather situation. You have access to your alumni network. You have a placement cell that is putting you in contact with various industry players. So there are a lot of factors that facilitate your very successful entry into the job market if you have a Canadian qualification. Not having any Canadian qualification and work experience is a real barrier, and it's a real it's a legitimate barrier, because sometimes you don't even get interview calls at all, no matter how wonderful your profile in India or whichever other country that you worked in. I worked for the government of New Zealand before I moved to Canada. I mean, I thought they were very comparable systems. I thought my foreign government experience would keep me in good standing, and I thought my communication was good, etc. But even though I did get credit, where it was due in many, many places, but oftentimes a lot of what you've done in India or whichever country that you're in, all of that gets very quickly expunged from your CV, and you have to start afresh. When you come to a new country. So if you've come as a permanent resident, while you have access to the job market and all the jobs, but sometimes just having that Canadian qualification or that all important work experience, it gives you so much more access to jobs and networks that otherwise are very discreet. And most of the jobs here, by the way, are only by word of mouth. So not every job is advertised. There's a very, very small percentage of jobs that are actually actively out on job sites and on LinkedIn, etc. So it's very important to know people and to build your networks. And that's why studying here and acquiring work experience and spending time in Canada, I would definitely recommend. If you are willing to put in the time and effort. Above 35, it might be a little bit harder. Um, to get a study permit or a visa, and there's definitely truth in that, because a lot of times you might have to really put in a strong case about why you are returning to academics, or what's going to happen at the end of the process. But that boils down to an interview. oftentimes, and you having to justify why you want to study, which if you are confident of doing, if you've chosen a great DLI and a good course, it's definitely a worthy enough pathway to look at. When can we expect an all-program draw? Kunal, nobody can tell you for sure when the next program draw will happen. But since um, since the CEC draw has taken 27,000 people off the pool, everybody's hoping the next one will be an FSW all-program draw. Okay. So, everybody's, I guess, waiting with bated breath, right, for the all-program draw. It's likely to happen far more than it has in 2020. The last draw happened in yeah, there was definitely the CEC draw was I guess it was draw number 176, right, which happened on the 13th of February 2021. That was when 27,332 people were invited. There hasn't been a draw after that. So, well, the next one is due anytime, I'd say, Kunal, if that answers your question. There hasn't been another draw since the 13th of Feb. 2021. That was draw number 176. So draw number 177 is likely to happen anytime soon. Actually, there were quite a few people, expecting one early March. So, and hopefully that'll be an all-program draw. So there you go, Kunal. I mean, let's hope it'll happen in the first week of March itself, and we're hoping that that'll be an all-program FSW draw. Yeah, there hasn't been one after. Yes, yeah, that was what I answered. There's another question. Yes, there hasn't been another draw since the 13th of Feb. That was the bumper CEC one that we discussed. Remember, with the 27,000 people, there hasn't been another draw since. Okay. Um, okay, above 35 guys. So I will give you, just basic pointers because it's not possible for me to discuss individual cases. But express entry is, looking difficult. There are definitely, other programs. As we discussed already, the study route is one to look at. There are PNPs, even though a lot of PNPs rely on you getting job offers from the province. Which is a difficult feat, especially in today's day and age when jobs have become difficult. Certain provinces actually took back a whole lot of LMIs that they had issued. Getting a job from even a province in Canada is becoming harder. But you can look at a few provinces that do not have the requirements, Saskatchewan, etc. But PNP is one route. There's also the investor program, which is, I mean, these are all, very, very knowledge intensive, convoluted programs. You have to get, a vetted business plan. You have to get an angel investor. You have to be accepted by a business incubator group. To clarify, Canada does not have a federal entrepreneurship program. Okay, all of the entrepreneurship programs are now only provincial. Canada did have a federal entrepreneurship program that it's done away with, so there's no longer those pathways for entry. The entrepreneurship programs have all moved to federal levels. There is a startup visa program at the federal level. This is where you get funding for your business plan from an approved angel investor, you get entry into a business incubator program, and we're also looking at a venture capitalist. putting in significant capital into your plan. So that's definitely one way, but it is a long drawn process. A lot of agencies are involved, and you will be spending significant time in getting all of these sort of loose ends tied up. So while it is an option, it's one that is expensive. It'll cost you quite a bit even to get help to get these applications through, and there will be quite a lot of toing and froing that might be required to and from Canada to meet your angel investor, to have access to your business incubation program, etc. And while these are pathways, um, if you really do want to explore it, these are options. Um, Learning French, I mean, I get asked this question. I mean, well, listen, if you don't want to study, if you have if it's getting harder to secure enough CRS points, well, if you want to if you're serious about learning a language, French does have serious implications, and a lot of provincial nominations are also on offer for people who are bilingual. So learning French and getting a level of fluency where you are able to score points once you do the TEF or the TCF French exam, that might bolster your profile quite a bit. So, well, if you're willing to invest the energy and the time, and if you're really serious about learning a foreign language, by all means, it's definitely one way to improve your profile scores and to get a whole lot of added bonus points for your profile. So, if you're serious about French and if you want to do it, definitely it's I mean, long term, it's not easy, guys, to learn a language. It might sound all of us have a romanticized idea of speaking a foreign language, and French in particular, but to learn French and gain a level of fluency that will hold you in good stead in the TEF and the TCF exam is not easy. And just sort of merely learning basic conversational French is not going to make the cut. So if you are looking at French as your saving grace, please, understand that it's going to be a tough process and it's a time-consuming process. When can I expect FS all program draw? Same thing that we discussed already. There has not been another draw since the sort of groundbreaking draw of the 13th of Feb 2021, the CEC draw. Where the minimum profile score was 75. So we're hoping that the next one will be an all-program draw, and it should happen, sometime in the first week of March. Okay, but no one can really predict because I don't know what draw it will be. PR processing, Kunal, if your question is around PR processing from discussions that we have in our sort of immigration circles, there hasn't been a significant delay in PR processing. Largely, it's 6 months from the time your PR application is accepted. Those are the processing timeframes. But if it's taking a little bit longer due to COVID, well, that might be understandable and excusable. But from the details that you have shared with me, it looks like, it'll take a little bit, it'll take a little while. So if you put in your application in September, the time frame is end of March or April is when it should come through. So keep track, but I don't think there'll be a significant delay, or it shouldn't go beyond April. If IRCC timeframes are anything to go by, it should come through the end of March or April. There's a question on the job opportunities in the IT sector. Well, guys, the job market is not the dulling of prospects is not really Canada specific. As I mean, the COVID has we know that it's created a bit of havoc in the job space. So all countries have been impacted, but the uptake for IT by and large has been fairly good. Toronto is known as the IT capital. I mean, they say it's the you know, Silicon Valley of Canada, which is a bit of a lofty claim, but you know, they are trying to, I guess, make the city, you know, an IT specific destination. So Toronto is fairly good as far as IT jobs are concerned. So are the other big cities. Quebec and Montreal in Quebec, it's known as the AI hub, the artificial intelligence hub. So there are a lot of AI jobs being offered to, especially, you know, to anybody in Canada, even if they do not have French proficiency. Quebec, as you might know, guys, it is a province where French is the first language or the primary language, you know, for communication, all things government, and it is a huge advantage if you do know French in Quebec. But they are giving out job offers or even offers of place for students who do not know French at all. And they've incentivized learning French in Quebec quite a bit, and they actually offer monetary benefits, or they actually offer money to people who want to learn French and will take French classes because you know, they do want people to communicate in French primarily. So uptake for IT programs, even though you know, the job that you land or what becomes of you eventually here is largely it largely depends on how you interview and, you know, what skills you've honed and the professional networks that you've built, etc. But IT generally, by and large, and this is not just Canada, in all countries, the uptake is really good. If your company has a Canadian affiliate, subsidiary, etc., I mean, and if you can get a Canadian transfer, brilliant. You can claim points for arranged employment, even in the Express Entry program. So, if any of you watching, if you work for companies that will, you know, give you a transfer to a Canadian, you know, subsidiary or an affiliate or a branch, etc., I mean, that's wonderful. That should be your first course of action. But of course, I'm realistic that this is very hard. And that you know, sometimes the entity in India and the entity in Canada function as completely you know, different. You know, I mean, they function in silos, so they're not very often. It's very difficult to move from one to the other. And well, I guess if it was that easy, a lot of people would have wanted to move. So I get that, but if you can negotiate, you know, your way into the branch of your own company, that is wonderful, and you should definitely do that. Okay, and then you can also claim points. Okay, so guys, in terms of what to expect in the year 2021, expect more invitations to apply. So 108,500. So 108,500. That is the targeted invitations to apply. You know, that the government has set out that they want to roll out in the year 2021. So that is what the government is gearing up for. The draws should continue to be bi-weekly. There shouldn't be a significant interruption in that process. While you know, we'd all want all entry draws, the you know, the COVID situation is still, you know, it has an ongoing bearing on developments in the immigration space. So given that, the CEC draws might still be popular. If anybody watching me is here and is here on a postgraduate work permit, etc., working, please put in your Express Entry application. Please put in your application, because I mean, with a cutoff as low as 75, you know, you should definitely take advantage of it. So please don't delay any further. If you're here already, put in your application, your Express Entry profile, and then wait for the draws to happen. If you are outside of India and if you're waiting for the next all program draw, you know, fingers crossed, there are a lot of us waiting. Hopefully that'll be the next draw in March of 2021, which is the month we're in currently. So let's just wait and sort of watch that space very closely. Anybody wanting to enter the pool, please make sure you get all of your academic credentials assessed. Even if you did a postgraduate diploma like 10 years back and you're working in a different area since then, get it assessed. Because if there is a Canadian equivalent, you might be able to claim points for it. Please prepare for IELTS. If you are wanting to apply for express entry, general IELTS, otherwise academic IELTS. And if you do have the resources and the time, and if you are I guess serious about wanting to pursue education here, by all means, please go ahead and do your academic IELTS, and get in touch with us. AJV now has tie-ups with a whole host of institutes and really good DLIs in Canada, so we can possibly do some institute mapping for you, and present your case in a way that will necessitate an offer from a very good DLI, which will make your acquiring a student visa an easy process. We can help you with interview preparation, etc. Because the study to reside pathway is really one of the most secure ways of gaining residence here. So definitely consider that. If you have the time, inclination, resources, you can get in touch with us. Otherwise, express entry continues to be one of those flagship pathways for Canada. Please bear in mind that all express entry profiles are valid for a year, after which, if you want to continue to stay in the pool, you have to renew your profile, because it loses its legitimacy after a year, right? You lose points for age, etc. So you have to redo the whole thing. Question on the spouse. Yes, you can. You can add your spouse to your profile if that is giving you, if that's giving your profile a boost and you're getting more points. You can create separate profiles, and you can choose to not add your spouse in your express entry profile. And in the question, when you're creating your express entry profile, when they ask you the question, is your spouse going to accompany you to Canada, you can say no, and just fill in your individual credentials, and we can work out an application for the spouse later. Those are definitely options. But I know of a lot of couples who create two separate individual express entry profiles, and then whoever gets the invite, they sort of pursue that application, and withdraw the other one. So that's definitely another, I guess, way that people leverage the system, really. Okay, so in 2021, of course, we expect more draws. Let's just hope that it'll be equally spaced between PNP draws and CEC draws and all program draws. If you are waiting, don't lose hope, because just really unpredictable, sometimes miraculous things happen with IRCC, and there's definitely a PR entry deficit that they will make up for. And even if they, I'm hoping that the start of the year, they are going to roll out a whole lot of invitations so that people can start applying and entering towards the latter half of the year. So that is, our hope. Also, the fact that 27,000 people have been taken out of the pool because they all received invitations via CEC in the last draw. It kind of clears the path almost for people who are there in the pool currently waiting. So there are quite a few things, let's say, to be optimistic about and to look forward to. So 2021 should be an interesting year. If you want a detailed analysis of your profile, if you want us to look at what your CRS scores are, how could you possibly improve, permutations, combinations, if you want a professional to do it, please get in touch with us, and I can supervise the analysis of your profile. I can have a conversation with you. So leave your contact details behind. It's very, very important to do a correct calculation of your CRS score to see where you stand. But when you come to us, it would be amazing if you have your academic credentials assessed already, and if you have your IELTS done already. Okay, choose your World Education Services for your credential assessment. A lot of people are also going with, University of Toronto, etc. That do ECAs. As long as you have an ECA report in front of you, it's all fair. So, but when you come to a professional for express entry, if you have all of these things done already, it's wonderful, because then your score is going to be that much more etched in stone. It won't be conjecture. Because I mean, if you come to us and say, "Oh, I'm good in IELTS, but I don't know how much I might get," we can only look at what your score could possibly be, right? We don't know for sure what it is. So if you can come to us with an IELTS score, and if you can come to us with an ECA report, that'll be amazing. Okay, those were sort of, sorry, I threw in a whole bunch of numbers. I hope that kind of gave you a fair idea of the year that was, and what we can expect in the year 2021. But yeah, the targets are huge. I mean, 401,000. That's the sort of forecast for the number of permanent residents that the government does want to bring in. So that's a significant number, and so you should definitely be in the race if you want to. If you are above 35 and you need a lot more options, etc., please reach out to us. It's hard for me on a generic platform like that to do or like this to do a detailed analysis of your profile, but we can possibly look at what alternative pathways might be possible if express entry doesn't look like it's the most obvious entry route for you. Okay. Um, Bhavik, the question on draws, we've already said that draws happen bi-weekly. The last draw was a big Canadian experience class draw. So the next one that is due, in the first half of March, will most likely be an all-program draw. I mean, it's a guess by all means, but no one knows for sure. But given what's happened already, we are hoping that the next one will be an all-program draw. So yeah, that's when the first half of March is when it's likely to happen. So it's due anytime soon, and I will watch that space, and then we can have a discussion. All right, so guys, that was the Express Entry Roundup for 2020 and what is likely to happen in 2021. Will scores go down for the all program draw? It should. But please also bear in mind that everything that's going on with COVID and new variants and COVID continuing to have such a deep impact on economies, that will it'll continue to I guess maintain its stronghold in how things span out in the immigration space. So that's why CEC draws might be a staple part of 2021 as well. So we have to look at what's going on in the immigration space in conjunction with sort of larger world events, COVID in particular, because they're all interrelated in a way. Okay. So I will continue to come back, and possibly the next live session we can take up another topic and take questions, etc. But I try and do live sessions on Thursdays. So if you have questions, etc., please come back and join me in the successive weeks, where I hope to come back with more topics, a little bit more information, give you small, nuggets of information, wisdom about small things and all things Canada. But otherwise, please reach out to us if you need individual help, and I'll be more than glad to take ownership of your case and your profile. Okay, so thank you for this morning's discussion, for questions. We're all waiting for draw number 177, which should happen anytime soon, and let's all hope it is an all-program draw. But until then, thank you for just taking time out to, I guess, have this discussion with me this morning, and I will continue to come back with topics that are, I guess pertinent, that are topical, and we can continue to have interactive discussions like this. Okay, so thank you for your time, guys. I'm signing off from Toronto in Canada, and have a great rest of evening or rest of day wherever you are. Thank you. I will be back another Thursday. Thank you, guys.